there is only one way, ultimately, to not be bothered or become angry by anyone. And that is ultimately recognizing the thoughts that create the anger or the being bothered. You have to disidentify with those thoughts. Ultimately, becoming aware of the choice, the conscious choice, to be able to reconstruct the thinking that you have that creates the anger and the anxiety and the depression and all the other things that go along with being bothered by someone else. So, ultimately, becoming present, rooted in the essence of who you are, recognizing that as who you are, and not giving those negative thoughts energy to allow you to be bothered or angry with other people. Now, you may not recognize that there's negative thoughts that correspond with the anger or the whatever it is, the sadness, the anxiety. But if you look closely at your thought process, you'll begin to notice that when you do become angry, there are certain thoughts and emotion that connect with those thoughts that creates the anger. If you disidentify with those thoughts, the anger dissolves, and you ultimately see that whatever the person's doing, whether it's stepping in front of you in line at the grocery store, happened to me. I was at the grocery store, I'll tell you this, and I was standing there. The line moved up a little bit. I didn't immediately walk up behind the next person. I didn't immediately do that. A lot of people do, because the person that was behind me, as I was standing there holding my items ready to be checked out, I noticed I can feel wind or breath on the back of me. And so I did turn a little bit, and I noticed the guy was about that close to me from behind. I didn't identify with a thought about it. It was fine. I saw it and okay. And so the person in front of me, the young lady, she walked up a step, and there was maybe a 3 or 4 second time space that passed by before I stepped up, and the person that was behind me that was very close to me walked around me and came in front. So I could have been bothered by that person. I could have been angry. I could have been resentful. I could have been a lot of things. But I already have recognized that I don't need that. I don't need anger. I don't need resentment. I don't need any of that. It doesn't do anything for you. So I gently tapped the gentleman and said, "Oh, excuse me, I was here." And he said, "The gap confused me. The gap that confused me." And so, okay, I saw that he was completely identified with his thought process and his emotion about what had happened there. So at that time, the lady turned around and she said to the man, "Yes, he was here." And I told her, it's okay. Because giving energy towards that state of consciousness would only heighten or increase that unconsciousness in that person. So knowing that, seeing that there was no anger or resentment or anything, I just allowed it to be for that time. Now, it may come up as, well, when do you say something, or you don't want to be a mat being stepped on, you don't want to be taken advantage of. Yes, that's true. So at some point, this was very small. It wasn't anything I need to actually address to the man and have him move out of my way. No, it wasn't that. So at that point, that's okay. But something else, for example, it continues to happen with this same person. Let's say, for example, then you may have to say something. You may have to report it to the cashier or whatever, the manager, so that when he comes, people will know that what kind of things he do in the store. But it didn't get to that. So there is scenarios where something does happen continuously in that sense, and you won't allow it to continue, but you won't also become angry or bothered because you're not connected with the thought process or deeply identified with the thought process of anger and resentment and revenge almost. So yes, you'll say something, but it always comes from a conscious state. It would always come from compassion. It would always come from love, ease, peace. It won't be where it's causing more of the unconsciousness. This can only happen really and genuinely when you have stepped out of the unconscious stream of thinking, which creates anger, resentment, and so on. Because even though you have stepped out of the normal state of consciousness, which is ultimately I call insane, doesn't mean that life challenges aren't going to happen. So this is where contemplation comes in, and you learn to handle the situations consciously by recognizing the thoughts that come up when these situations happen. And there's where reconstructing the thought process comes in that we talk about. Because no one's going to allow a person to continue doing the same thing. Consciously aware or not, there are certain things you can do to help with these type of situations, but they'll never be violent or negative. For example, if something does happen where someone attacks you, I know I will fight back, I would hurt this person. It's not like that. But you may have to defend yourself. Yes, you may have to do things like that, but still will probably be more in the sense of trying to subdue the person, not really trying to hurt them, because you see that they're taken over by their mind. So there's a little bit of sympathy or compassion there for that person. And of course, again, the anger and anxiety and the depression, the resentment, whatever comes up won't be taken personal, because the complete identification with that thought form has dissolved. And so you no longer look to cause havoc, if you will, for situations that have happened, whether it's to you or you see it happening to someone else. There's always a choice for a conscious response. It's also your choice if you recognize what thoughts are coming up, when some challenge has presented itself to you and anger can arise. You have a bit of a split second to be aware and recognize that you have a choice to go into the unconsciousness or step out of the unconsciousness and remain rooted in presence, which usually situations are handled quite easy. Thank you.